Lesson number 26 of the series, we are learning JavaScript, and we are learning JavaScript by examples. And in this series, which is named Grid, we are trying to recreate this application which is available on this website, and this is what we have done so far. We have achieved quite a bit of functionality, but there is still a few steps that we need to learn. So in last lesson, we added some messages here. So if you type in an answer 0.61, for example, you get a tick and a message that says correct. And if the answer is wrong, it will show you a cross sign, a cross PNG image, and it will say cross. So this is what we have done so far. And in this lesson, we will try to add a counter here. What it means that if you type in an answer here in the actual application, 0.37, for example, for this one, you get a counter that says you have attempted question number 1, and there are a total of 12 questions. So we don't want to add this progress bar at the moment. What we will learn in this lesson is to add a question counter just here in this space. Now for this lesson in particular, if you have not seen the previous videos and you are new to JavaScript, so this lesson will not make sense. So it is absolutely important that you watch all the videos in this series, and you watch all the videos step by step. You learn, so you can learn what has been done and what is being done. If you want to understand thoroughly, you will have to watch all the videos, and all the videos are available on this website as well as on YouTube. I will minimize this, and this is my folder from the last time. I will open it up. The only difference is that I've changed the name of the HTML document to grid 12, because this is 12th lesson on the grid and 26th lesson altogether. So I will right mouse click and I'll open it with my Sublime text editor. You can use any text editor that you want, and I will reopen my browser and resize the window. This is the browser and this is the text editor, so we can see side by side what we are doing. So previously we have been reloading this whole page as soon as the user presses an enter key in this input field. For question numbers to appear here, we cannot use this, because if we keep reloading the page, the question number will not change. Let me tell you what that means. So if I copy this and paste it here, and I say question 1, if I save it now and refresh it, there is a message that says question 1. But if I press enter, and the browser simply reloads the page as a result of this piece of code, this question will always remain question number 1. So we cannot use this, first of all. So I will remove this, and what we will have to do, we will have to reuse this function render grid again and again if we want to change the number of questions, if we want to advance the number of questions as we attempt them. So for that reason, we will have to move all these variables inside the function. Okay. However, there is this variable called fill that is not only used in this function, but it is also used in the check answer function just here. So we cannot define a variable here. We can assign a value, which we will do, but I'll remove this let. So we will define this variable outside the function. We'll say fill, we can say let fill is equal to 0. So I've created this variable and I have initiated this with a value of 0 as well. Alternatively, I don't even have to assign a value, so I don't even have to initialize it. Now for us to be able to change this message, we will have to target this element, and to target this element with the help of JavaScript, I will give it an ID and I will call it question counter. So this element has an ID of question counter, and to target this with the help of JavaScript, we can simply use this method document.getElementById, by ID. But I want to show you another method today, so I will call it so I'm defining another variable, creating another variable, and I will say document.query selector, and I will copy this and I will paste it here. So this method on this document object will target an element either with the help of ID, as well as if this was a class, you will simply type a dot before this name and then it will target the class. However, in this case, this span has an ID of question counter, so we're targeting this ID with the help of this method, and we are saving this element in this variable. Now that we have saved this element in this variable, we can change the value of this. We can change the inner HTML of this element. Inner HTML is this space or this message between these two opening and closing element tag, which is span in this case. So now that we have the element saved as a variable, I can copy this and I can change the inner HTML of this element. This is the inner HTML of this span element. If it is a space, the inner HTML would be a blank space, but in this case there's a message that says question number 1. This is the inner HTML of this element, and we'll change this inner HTML with the help of this variable. And for that I'll have to go down to my check answer function, and I will have to create another variable, and I'll call it counter, and I'll assign a value of 1 to this variable. So as soon as a user presses the enter key, I want counter to go up by 1. So I'm increasing the value of this counter by 1. So it was 1 to start with. The first time this function runs, the value will become 2. And what happens when the value becomes 2? We want to paste this variable here, and we want to change the inner HTML to, I will use tick marks that are on the left side of number 1 on your keyboard and on top of the tab key. So these two small symbols are called tick symbols, and I will say question and a semicolon. I'm copying this format, and then I can dynamically change the counter. So to do that, I'll have to use the dollar symbol and an opening curly bracket and a closing curly bracket, and I can simply display this value here. So I'll copy this and I will paste this here. So this question will be changed by this, which is a static statement, and then this is a variable which will change every time user presses this button. So let's save this and refresh this. Type in an answer 0.32 for example. For this one, if I press enter, you see a tick mark, a correct message. Nothing has changed here. This is not going to go away. However, the question number has been changed. If I press enter one more time, you'll see that question number jumps to question 3 now. One more time, the question number has changed to 4 now. Now we will also have to take care of these things. So when after the value of after the inner HTML of this element is changed, I want this message to disappear. So I can copy this this method which says correct or wrong here, and I will paste it here, and I want to replace this correct message or even the wrong message if it is there with a blank space. So if I save it now, I still have not touched this. Okay, so if I refresh this, we are back to question number 1. If I type in an answer 0.02, the message disappears, the tick has not disappeared, so we will also change this, copy and paste this here. I will just tab it back, and I will change this background image to unset. So if I save it now, refresh it, this is 0.82, press enter. You did see a correct message, a tick mark and a correct message. We haven't changed this, but the question number has been changed from 1 to 2. Let's see one more time, refresh it. This is question number 1. If I type in an answer, if I press enter, you see a message that says tick and the correct message. The question number has been changed from 1 to 2. If I press enter one more time, the question number has changed to 3. If I press it one more time, question number has been changed to 4. So we also have to take care of this, which is this input element. So I can copy this and I can paste this here. A little bit of housekeeping, and I will say value to a blank space. So if I save it, refresh it, I will type in an answer, you'll see a tick or a cross mark, and you'll see a value, and after half a second this message will disappear and this value will also go to blank. So this is 40 plus 30, 70. 0.76 is the correct answer. If I press enter, you see a correct message, a tick mark, a correct message, and question number goes to 2. This value disappears and this value disappears, but the number of colored cells is still the same. So let me type an answer one more time, 0.76, enter, you see a message, tick, a message, the values clears, this value has gone back to none, and question number has been changed to 3. So we have achieved this so far even without reusing this function. We will have to reuse this function at some stage, but let me show you how to fix this. To fix that, every time the function runs, this render grid function runs, I will have to make use of this. So I will copy this, and before the function does anything, I want to change the inner HTML of this table element, which is saved as this variable called box. This is the table, and we want to say just change it to a blank space. So two single quotations, opening and closing one, a semicolon, save it. Now the grid should also change, but we have to rerun the function. So let me see, although we have used this functionality here, we have added this code, but let's see what happens. So we have gone back to question number 1. If I type in an answer 0.26 for example, you see a tick mark, you see a correct message, but despite of us adding this value, nothing has happened to the number of colored cells in the grid. That's because the function runs once only. We copy this and we run this function again, render grid, after half a second, just here. Okay, sorry about that. And we run this function again after half a second. When the user presses an enter key, this function runs, check answer, and when this function runs, we get all these things, a tick or a cross, a correct message or a wrong message. Then Windows set timeout function, we change the counter, and then we change the inner HTML to this message of this span element which we just created, of this span element, and then we remove this message here with the help of this piece of code, and then we also unset the background image to none, and then we change the value of this input element to none, and then we wait for half a second, and then we run this function again. So if I save it now, refresh this, you see question number 1 here, and then if I type in an answer which is 0.48, you see a message that says tick, a correct message which has gone away after half a second. The input field has gone back to empty field, and question number has changed, and the value and the number of colored cells is also changed. So if I type an answer one more time, 0.02, for example, the same thing repeats. Okay, the question number has gone to 3, the number of colored cells has changed, and this message has gone blank, and the input field has become blank as well. So if I keep entering it, I'm pressing enter, and you see the number of questions is going up. Okay, so in next lesson we will try how to limit the number of questions. Let me type in a wrong answer, 0.50 for example. Okay, so there are a total of 12 questions, versus in this application the question number is going up and up and up again. So we'll learn how to limit the number of questions in next video. Thank you very much. I hope you learned something today. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next lesson.